Welcome gamers to this one-off video. It's going to be a single video. It's probably going to be fairly long, I would guess. This is going to be a primer on how new players can sort of get into Distant Worlds 2. And that may be players who haven't played Distant Worlds for a long, long time. First-time players. I know there's a lot of players out there, a lot of people actually who haven't played Distant Worlds 1 or Distant Worlds Universe and are really, really interested in what they can see now with Distant Worlds 2. So if you're in that category, then this video hopefully will just help you get started. I will be putting together a full-blown tutorial series as well with individual episodes covering different aspects of the game. But at this particular point in time, this video is really just to give you a bit of a kickstart along. And the biggest thing with any of these sort of games is really how you approach the game. And so I want to talk a little bit about that before we even get into it. Distant Worlds is a space opera. It's not a simulator. It's not a strategy game as such, where you're trying to, frantically click on things and frantically try to sort of min-max every single little thing in the game. It's a story, and you should enjoy it as a story. And so the biggest mindset you have to come in with the game is to just enjoy the flow of the game, rather than trying to sort of push things along too much. And I can't stress that enough. A lot of games are like this, where when you look at them from the outside, you think, "Oh, that looks complicated," or "There's so much involved. How am I going to learn all this? How am I going to be able to work quickly enough to do things?" The game is not fast-paced, and that's really quite nice. The game is not designed to be played fast-paced. It's designed to be present basically different situations, different stories. I'll also be putting out other videos as well, probably from live streams and things, where I've come across the sorts of random scenarios that you sort of tend to find in Distant Worlds that end up becoming, little problems for you to solve, little strategic problems for you to solve along the way that you wouldn't know that they were there until they actually crop up. So in that sort of sense, the game is brilliant, but it is very, very unbalanced. I mean, I've referred to it as being beautifully unbalanced because you don't know what you're going to get. You could end up being in a situation where you're surrounded by extremely aggressive factions. You could end up being surrounded by extremely friendly factions. You just don't know. One game will lead to a very, very violent game, and the other game will lead to a very diplomatic game. So, you just don't know what you're going to get when you actually sort of start a game of Distant Worlds. And the idea of the primer is not so much to sort of get you through those steps, because that's sort of more the mid game. I just want to get you through the early game, not min-maxing, as I say, just going with the flow and enjoying it. And as I say, it is a space opera. I mean, a space opera, for example, like, Star Wars is like a space opera, where you've got like different storylines that sort of come up. And really, if you're sort of rushing through, you're going to miss probably 90% of those little storylines. And it's sort of one of these things where you can role play even the way that you actually are playing the game. Let's get started with a new game. Now, I'm not going to, as I say, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time talking about what we're setting up in here, but I will actually go through just briefly, why I'm choosing what I'm choosing, but without going into too much detail. So start a new game. Defaults, I'm just going to keep that on defaults for the galactic settings. This is on default, but I have ramped my difficulty up one. Now, if this is a new game for you guys, just keep it on restless and normal, or even go back to normal easy, whatever you want to do through here. You've got the aggression, and then you've got the difficulty itself, which is sort of like how quickly you research things, etc., etc. So, I'm just going to go hard and unstable. That's sort of where I prefer it, the game when I'm playing it myself, but it's entirely up to you. It's not going to impact really what we're doing in here. Research speed, I'm just going to go with normal in through there. This is sort of like global. I'm going to keep these on default, which is to only show the next project visible. You can show all the projects if you really wanted to. Now, I was playing with this on when I was doing the beta testing, because I wanted to see what was coming up in advance, but it can be overwhelming if you're not used to the game. So I would suggest just keeping it on this one, and then just making your choices as you go. As I say, forget about min-maxing the game. It's just going to do your head in, particularly if you're new to the game. I'll talk a little bit about how you can min-max it, or like what to look for min-maxing. But this video is not about min-maxing. It's about trying to get you the most enjoyment from the game as you possibly can. By the way, there'll be a link in the description to my game store, which is nexus.gg/DasTactic. And I do actually have Distant Worlds for sale on there. It will tend to match whatever specials Steam actually has at the time, but always just go and double check, because sometimes Steam will actually have it. There might be a different sort of like the developer special or something like that Nexus GG won't actually have access to. But if you do want to support my channel, then that's a great way to do it, just with buying your games that way. You get a Steam key, so you're essentially getting it you're buying it through a third party, which then sort of gives you a Steam key for use on Steam. So it's essentially like getting it from Steam. You end up with the same result as getting it directly from Steam. So anyway, we'll just continue on. And also random research paths is now the default, so I'm going to keep that one on as well. This doesn't shuffle the research around. What it does do though is just shuffle the paths that link research. So you may have a few paths or a few research items that you can skip over to get sort of better tech later on in the game. Again, not a big deal. Tech trading, I will leave that one on. Just gives you a little bit more that you can do diplomatically. Threats, just keeping that all on default. Colonization, keeping this on default as well. Your race. Now, I'm going to be playing as the humans. The reason for that is the humans are probably going to give you the most scope for doing different things. They're sort of in the middle between aggression and diplomacy. So you can sort of you can choose whichever way you want to go with depending on whoever you're coming up against. You can sort of see there the different bonuses that they actually have. Like they're good at researching, they're good at diplomacy. The war weariness reduction is plus 10, which means that they can stay in wars a bit longer than other factions. Espionage is high and trade income is high. So they do a little bit of everything, but they're not specialists in anything. So, except maybe diplomacy, they are very, very good at diplomacy. The other factions have all got other benefits. So by all means, if you're getting the game, click on them and have a bit of a read through and see what they're good at. Have a read through here as well. They all play very differently. Like you've got extremely aggressive factions, extremely weak factions that are good at trading, more sort of technological factions. So whatever you want to be playing as, there's only 7 at this stage. This will also then flesh out over time. By the way, I should point out this is version 1.0.1.4 of the game, which is the pre-release version. So this is a couple of days out now from release when I'm actually recording this. So things will change a little bit over the coming months. But I guess as more and more content is then built for the game, you're going to find there's going to be a lot more different factions available to play over the course of the actual game itself. But at launch, we've only got the 7 that we can play. And the humans, I think, are a good one for us to start. Also, their storyline introduces the history of how the factions ended up being isolated on these little worlds, doing what they're doing. Anyway, let's just go across. Now, just going to the humans, it'll then just randomly pick usually between democracy and republic. It's gone with democracy, that's fine. Again, you've got different sorts of benefits that come from that and also some negatives as well. You can see our war weariness where we had plus 10 has now gone to minus 20. We've actually now got a net result of minus 10 war weariness. So we're not going to be all that good now at staying in wars, playing as a democracy, but that's okay. It's just part of the story. This is what I love about the game. It just presents a story for you or presents a scenario. You get into it and you just go with the flow. All right, so starting situation. Again, this is all just defaults. I'm just going to keep them on default. Other empires, default. Victory conditions, all on default. So this is just all the defaults. Let's just go and start the game up in through here. So we'll get in and then it will start to present us with the story events where we can sort of then get a little bit of information about the galaxy. Now I'll probably skip over some of these. Now when you first come into a game, what it does do is it gives you a brief summary as to who you are. It'll just go tell you what you're good at, what your leader is good at, which we won't really get caught up through here. What sort of planets you have nearby, where you are technologically, and also just explore, expand, and conquer. So this is just a bit of an introduction, just to help. If you're a first-time player, definitely read through it because it'll just help immerse you into this simulation/story. Let's get started. Now we're in the middle of the galaxy by the looks of things in through here, and here we are. Here is our planet. I'll talk a little bit about the user interface and how things actually work. Now, when you first come in, you'll come up with generally you'll come up with like a to the stars or something like this, depending on whatever faction you're going to be playing. And this will be the first of your racial story events. And so this one's just telling you that basically that for generations, we've been stuck on this particular planet. We've been looking at the stars. We've got stories of our ancestors who were had taken to the stars, and we don't know much about what was going on, but we are trying to get our technology up to a point where we can actually go back to the stars. That's really sort of where we want to be. Now, by all means, have a bit of a read, like just pause. I'll just go back to the top. Okay, pause, have a look, have a read. Pause, have a read. And it does always give us like early warp field experiments and also a bit of an understanding of research labs. Now, we don't get this, we just get half of it. There's a 50% back up through there. These ruins provide the following colony bonuses of like plus 8% colony development, plus 7% shield research, and plus 4% scenery. Now, these just get added to when we're trying to do sort of tech, like in and research. So that will just be something that will help us along later on in the game. Again, it's not really all that important. These are randomly generated each time. The rest of this is not. Okay, so we'll just dismiss that one. The game then starts unpaused. There are a number of different speed settings actually. So Starship constructed, when we start the game, it's already just building our first Explorer. And so we've constructed our first Starship, the Friendly Relic. This event marks the beginning of our return to the stars. We must continue to expand and explore our solar system, build more ships to establish a thriving solar empire. So we'll just go and we can go and click on there to take me to where this thing actually is. And so we've just got this survey ship, which is what this the EX-1 Traveller is the class of ship that it actually is, and this is just a survey ship. So we start off with this one so we can start to do some surveying. So we'll just dismiss that one. The game then just continues on, and we can see their new exploration ship has been completed. Dismiss that. Now we don't have to do anything. You can sort of see it's got like this A, so the ship is got fully automated. It's got no mission at the moment. It's just doing some things. We saw there that something just came on board. I'm not sure what that actually was. And now it's going off to survey different planets. Now, what's this planet that we've got? This is a continental moon. Now, it wants us to do different things. So it'll tell us what to do over through here. Build a base. Yes, we want to get a small spaceport built pretty quickly. And we also want to be doing build more explorer ships, because we're going to need to be exploring our local area. There's the base being built at the back there. So we have got... this will always be randomly generated the way it sort of does work. You can see there that we're around this gas giant. So we've got Durican 3, and that guy is going to very slowly sort of make his way across there. He's only got impulse engines at the moment. He doesn't have a warp drive. We need to do this to get the warp drive. So let's speed this thing up a little bit. And you might want to do this, pretty much, particularly in the early part of the game. Usually when you get over about 50%, there's a slight chance that you could go backwards with your research. You could actually have like a catastrophe with your research, and it will then halve it. Now, we don't want to go back to 25, so let's go and click on that to bring up the research tree. It will then highlight the one that we clicked on, the early warp field experiments, and you can see all the other ones in through here. I can start to sort of queue things up. If I'm in column 0 and there's things that I haven't researched yet, it's not going to cost me anything to put them into the list of things that we want to be then having a bit of a look at. So I'm just going to click on this one though, and when I click on it, it comes up with a little initiate crash research dialog box. So initiating crash research for the early warp field experiments will cost 3,558 credits. This project cannot be cancelled after these costs have been paid. Are you sure you want to pay these costs to initiate crash research? Now, you have to be a bit careful because you want to make sure that you always keep a little bit of money around. And I did have a look before we went in. I should have highlighted that. It won't show you if you can't afford it, but we can afford this. So I'm just going to pay the costs. We now have a little dialogue or a stopwatch indicator through here, and also on the left-hand side, a little bit down above that little dialogue that's come up through there, just indicating that we are now in a crash program. Now, what I can do in here is I can then think, okay, well, what else do I want? Now, again, people will have very, very definite build queues for themselves, and I would strongly suggest, by all means, read them, but don't adhere to them as a rule of as a definite rule. If you'll probably end up developing your own way of playing the game. And so, for example, you can sort of focus very heavily on trying to get as much cash or income as you possibly can at the start. You may decide to go more military style with things. So just do what you feel comfortable with. Have a bit of a read, like, over through here, this is energy deflectors. What does this one do for us? It's going to give us deflection field generators, which are shields. You'll see there, the little classification there is for shielding. And spend some time just having a look through these different things. We get one, we've got on the left-hand side, we've got the deflection field generator for fighter craft, so just for fighters, and we have the deflection field generator for main starships. And so that's sort of where we get so shielding will be important for our bases, for our starships, for everything really. So that's a good one for us to go for if we want to go for getting protection. And I probably will play that way in this instance because I think it's a little bit easier to grasp and to sort of understand what's going on. So that's definitely a viable option. We also don't have any armor, so this will then give us standard armor for fighters and standard armor for spacecraft and like star bases. And so this one here will just get a little bit more of like protection for our actual craft. So again, a viable way to go. We could go into the second rung, but you'll then sort of see that it's then got an initiation cost, and that's indicated by the little dollar sign that you sort of see next to it. And so for these, if we go and click on these sorts of things, or not click on them, because that's going to then ask us if we want to pay for it, and in this case we don't really want to be doing that, but so we do have a cost in here. Now be careful queuing too much in initially, and particularly if you're sort of in this pre-warp phase. These are going to take a long time. You can see 11.2 years to research that one, whereas armor plating over through here is going to be 5.61 years. Now as you get into the game, it will research faster and faster as you sort of find better ways of doing your research. But initially, that's not going to be the case. So just be aware that this is going to take a long time to get these. But some of these are quite good. Like we can go from, for example, we've got escorts at the moment in through here. That's what we start the game with. Next one across through here is frigates, which are a lot more powerful. And so these are sorts of things that we may sort of have a bit of a look at. You may decide to do that one. Or you can go from these escorts down to the improved escorts and get like patrol escorts or heavy escorts. I'll talk a little bit about how the design of ships comes through. You don't have to design your own ships. The game will do that for you if you prefer. So just go with the flow again, whatever you feel comfortable with, and by all means just have fun with it and experiment. If you do things wrong, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Like it's one of these games where it's a long game. It takes a long time, so you don't have to rush whatever you're going to be actually doing through here. You've got little things to help your starship sort of get their targeting. But if you do this, you actually have to have a special item, a special sensor on your ship for this to sort of then work. And so in the initial part of the game, you don't really have space for this. For putting these things on there. For example, like this is a countermeasure system is the component that you will then sort of need to actually have. And if we have a look over at the escorts and sort of see how the component bays, which just happen to be where my cursor is, you'll sort of see it's got like 2 standard weapon bays. It's got 2 large engine bays, 2 defense bays. Only 1 sensor slot. So we've got more important things than doing targeting or anything like that for those. So, and then we've just got 9 general slots back over through here as well. So there's nothing much really for us to do with those countermeasures just yet. Here are our sensors, by the way. So we probably don't really need to worry about those in the early part of the game. But look, just do what you wanted to do. I will actually go and queue a few little things up, and without really sort of looking at things. Just as a point of explaining how you may want to go through things a little bit faster, you do get a benefit to your income if you end up with expanded space stations and you go with this resort station back over through here. The resort station allows you to put a resort base where you can then you get a tourism income. And playing as the humans, that's quite a viable way to play the game. So just be aware of that one. You also get the large mining station hull as well. But the resort station, you don't start with that. But to get that, you'll sort of notice that there are different sorts of lines sort of extending off. Actually, you probably won't show it there, actually. But what you need to be able to then build that, you still need to go down and get yourself... where is it? There's a few things you need to get. You need to get basic transport systems to get the passenger compartment for the tourism aspect, so that they've got somewhere to go and stay. And you also need the the basic recreation centre as well for those. So you've got a few things to get in order to pick up that one if you do want that side of things. I'm just going to go back up. I'm going to pick the deflectors. It'll then just join the list back over through this side, and armour plating. So I'll just get those three established. We may also go back up through here, maybe look at early iron weapons at some point as well, just so we can disable other ships. But let's just leave it there. All right, so the game will just sort of chug along. Now, by all means, if you do want to speed it up, you can press the buttons through here, particularly in this early phase. You know, it's not going to really worry us too much. I'm going to try to be playing mainly on this so we can sort of talk about things in between events that will happen. The start of the game will tend to go along in a very, you know, pretty much the same each time, which is, you know, there we go, it's still plodding along on its way out to find what it can find back over here. So while we're waiting for things to happen, let's talk a little bit about the way that the layout actually is for this one. So most of what we do in this early phase until we get any sort of even these little skip drives is we're going to be stuck here around these planets. So we've got like another planet back over here, which is a forest moon, and we don't know what the quality is like in this one. We may be able to colonize it at some point in the future. We just don't know. If we have a look at our planet as an example, our planet, we get a lot of information about the planet. In fact, if you click on this one, show colony details screen, we then have a lot of more information back over through here, which goes, and I'll talk a little bit about this, but I'll only be just touching the surface of how these things actually sort of do work. I'll talk a little bit about how you get your money, what to look for, you know, how you can sort of try to improve things a little bit. There we go. We just picked up a new general. He just arrived here with our leader. You can see there our leader has now got a fair few different sorts of benefits that it gives across the whole of our empire. All right, so anyway, that's Lunars. Now, if we have a look at the quality, is 82, which is really high. And so the colonization suitability for humans is plus 42. And the magic number is plus 20. If it's under 20 suitability for any of the factions or any of the races that you actually are in control of, it's going to cost you a lot of money. But anything over 20 means that, you know, the support costs, the minimum you can ever have is negative 1,000. So you're always going to be paying 1,000. But if it's, you see there, you can see in the little tooltip, the second of the bullet points down the bottom there, it's saying suitability for population less than 20 is a factor that increases the support cost. So be very, very careful that you don't go crazy trying to expand too quickly with planets that just aren't worth it. Now, we'll have a little bit of a look at that later on when we're looking at the actual game itself. Now, a few other little things. I'll just move that one back out there a little bit. So a few little things to just be aware of. Now, the game is still going to be developed. You know, there's a lot of development still to be done on the actual game itself. It's certainly, look, it's 99.9% there, but there are a few little, I guess, quality of life things that you should be aware of that will be fixed in the, you know, by the time you watch this, there's a good chance that these are already fixed, unless you're watching it right on launch. You've got a new scientist that has appeared. I'll talk about these as we go in. Make sure, like at the moment, what it does do, when you start a new game, it doesn't reset the policy. So if you've changed your automation settings, which are under the Empire screen, and then under policy settings, what you will end up having is advisors and automation. And through this side, just make sure that is saying default if you're wanting to go back to where we are right now. You may change these over the course of the game, and we certainly will be doing that in this particular little playthrough when it's time to do it. So there's a few little, like default is fine for the vast majority. It means you don't have to worry too much. It's going to give you little warnings when there's anything to consider. You have the choice as whether you do them or not. Eventually you get to a point where you automate the things that don't interest you, and you'll have everything on manual that you want to have direct involvement with. But you can go and set this one to rule in absence with full automation, where you don't have to do anything at all. There will still be some pop-ups that will sort of stop the game that you'll have to interact with, but you don't need to play the game in feeling that you're rushing around. You can see there I've just got the game plodding along underneath, and there's not much really happening. We're still waiting for this little guy to make his way across to this gas giant so he can do some scouting in through there. The reason he's going there is because this is where our fuel is most likely going to be coming from. They'll sort of skim the fuel off the gas giant if there's Caslon there. So it wants to construct a construction ship. Oh, hang on, it's actually now completed that one. That's fine. away you go. So make sure that that's on default. If you are sort of like, if you've been playing with the game and you've set any of these things differently, then just double check that that's there, because it doesn't do, like, it will, whatever your last game that you were playing, it will use that setting for a new game. For an old game, it will remember what the settings were, like with the save files, but not for a new game. So hopefully that will be changed at some point, and hopefully also at some point you'll be able to actually have your own presets for yourself that will sort of then work in through there. But there's quite a few in there. You can have a look and see what they do. Like if we go rule and absence in through this side, everything gets automated. If we go back to default, there's a bit of a mishmash of different sorts of things. I won't go into that in too much detail. Now, another thing also, and we can't really see it at the moment, but if I go into my construction menu and go to ship designs, it will also remember what you may have done with your automation back in through this side. So I'm just going to go and change that one back to automatic, just so that the escorts, as we get new technology, the AI will actually design that one for us. So I don't want to be too caught up in doing specific designs. I will cover it in a brief form here at some point, like in this particular episode, but just be aware that this doesn't automatically get changed. With whatever your settings were last time, it will still show up. So have a quick look through the auto design. You can just go down to all designs, see if there's anything there that's got manual. Now, if you've played the game and you've got like frigates and things like that, they may also still be set to manual. So when they do come on board, just have a bit of a look back and make sure that is still on auto design as well. That way the AI will look after that for you and you don't have to get too involved. So anyway, we'll just close that one off. By the way, by doing that, when I come back in, it's then going to have all designs. So I'll just go back to, the one I like is actually active buildable designs. Is the instead of latest buildable designs, I just go active buildable, and that's anything that's still active over through here will then show up. If we go back to all designs, we can see this one's already been made obsolete, this small spaceport. So that does just so that they don't show up. It can get quite overwhelming with what you've got in there. But anyway, you can also then filter it by state ships, where you're just looking at the escorts, exploration ships, construction ships, etc. That of course will also then grow as you get the tech for the bigger upgrades. That's one part of what we wanted to talk a little bit about. I've gone through the mindset with how you sort of need to be sort of approaching the game, or how you should be approaching the game for yourself. And I'll just go and turn that one off for a second. I also want to talk a little bit about the resources that you can get access to for the actual game itself. So one of the big resources, probably the biggest resource really, is going to be the Galactopedia back over here. So by all means, when you come up against anything at all, actually there's another one that I have got turned off. When you first come into the game, it's going to come through with little tooltips. Now they're like, it'll sort of come up with a box over here, whether you want to do the tour. I would strongly recommend that you do it. It doesn't take very long. It explains all of the different parts of the screen, what everything actually does do. I'll cover that very basically here as well. But it does a very, very good job of doing that one. So by all means, have a look through the tour when that one does appear, and then you can just turn it off if you're wanting to. I just have it turned off by default now. I should have actually turned it back on so you could at least see that. You can turn it back on again as well, like just by going to the game menu and going to settings. If you there's tours right there. You can turn on, you can sort of reset the tours. There's a button in here somewhere for resetting tours. I forget where that actually is. It's we go reset tours, re-enable all the tours if you're wanting to, or you can actually just go across and turn on the different tours there for the different sorts of ways of looking at the screen, which is actually very, very nicely done, as I say. So that's definitely worth having a look at. The other one is the Galactopedia, which just gives you a lot of really in-depth information. So if you're sort of seeing something, what does that do? Why are there? What's a construction resource and what's a luxury resource? What's the differences between them? You'll quite often sort of find them listed somewhere. Like for example, you've got like categories. This is game concepts. You've got your resources down through here, so you can sort of click on those and have a bit of a look at the specific resources, what they do if you're wanting to. There's a lot of resources. They're all very, very, very important. But they are split between luxury resources and construction resources, along with fuel as well. Now, sometimes there's often things in here which give you information which can be quite valuable. things like, getting started, like this is just like a welcome screen, going through different sort of ways that concepts will then work, etc., etc. I won't get bogged down in this one, but it does sort of give you a bit of an explanation as to what things are actually happening as you click on through these. Very, very good document. This is the manual, as far as needing to as a reference for when you're playing. This is what you should sort of be opening up and having a bit of a look at. Now we've just discovered. I'll just pause this now while we talk about this one. We've just got all these different discoveries that have come from Diricun 3. And so if we sort of have a bit of a look at that one there, you'll sort of see that when we hover over it, it's now got a little sort of funny looking icon with a tick next to it with the number 10. That's the survey rating that you've now done with your survey ship. So this ship has now gone across and had a good look at this and thought, okay, yep, we've actually been surveying that for quite some time, and we've actually now found that at level 10 we've been able to figure out what resources are actually inside the gas giant. And so we get like a message coming up through here. So we've discovered Caslon is a common gas that is a universal reactor fuel. It's found in gas giant worlds. This is an incredibly important resource for us to find. So we've now got a source of Caslon, which means that we can start to mine that. We'll just dismiss that one. We've also then found argon. And it'll tell you typically used in weapons, shielding, and reactor components. And we then also found ourselves krypton, typically used in weapons, shielding, and reactor components again as well. And then we also then have another discovery here. We've discovered hidden items at Diricun 3 in the Diricun system, and it's giving us a bonus for 7% industrial research. So the planet itself now has got like a research bonus if we want to make use of it. And we do. Quite often they're hard to find. So these planets that actually do give you some sort of like research bonus. So we'll dismiss that one for now. And what that will then mean is if we go back across to here, you can see that around this system we've got another little moon here as well, a carbonaceous moon. If we go and click on that, we'll then see that they've got one location bonus, so plus 7% industrial research, and we have a choice of what we can build here. Now we can build both of these things. We've got a mining station, which we can build for 6,400 credits from the private economy expense, or basically, we can build a research station for like coming from 6,464 credits. We've got 10,000. That one comes out of our pocket. The other one comes out of the private economy pocket, which I haven't explained just yet. So with this one in here, we definitely want to be getting the research station. Now it will prompt us anyway. We don't have to look at that and go, oh, we have to do that quickly. Like, forget that. The game will tell you when it's time to do all that stuff because we've got all that on default. It's just going to say, hey, do you want to build this? Or, hey, do you want to build that? And it gets to the point where in the end I just say, yeah, look, just automatically build whatever you want to build. So that will actually sort of happen over time. So now the other thing with the housekeeping, I'm still going through all this. Resources. So the biggest resource is your Galactopedia. The next biggest resource probably, or the resource you're going to have access to is going to be the manual. Now the manual is not really a correct word because the Galactopedia is really your game manual for when you're playing the game. The actual manual that comes with the game is more like a companion document, and I think it's something that's actually nice to read away from the game. It gives you a bit of background information without going through the nitty-gritty of things. So it's definitely worth having a read, but it's not really, in my opinion, it's not really a critical document. Like some manuals, you really need to be having them next to you while you're playing. This game is not that complex, so don't worry about having the manual open in a PDF form to double check. If you need to look at anything, use the Galactopedia. That will actually cover that aspect for you. So the manual can be read later on or anywhere else if you've got nothing else to do, etc. So the manual is one resource. Another great resource, most of you have come maybe through this sort of like the Steam forums or something like this. The Steam forum will be good, I would imagine, and there will be people that will give sort of lots of information and tips. But if you really want to get right into the heart of the development sort of area of Distant Worlds, then sign up at the Matrix forums, where you're going to then sort of be able to ask questions. Look, the community over at Matrix in the Matrix forums, there's a lot of really, really, very intelligent gamers who are very, very accommodating with answering people's questions. They're very extremely helpful. And so by all means, I think the Matrix Forum, I would highly recommend that if you are wanting to sort of get into Distant Worlds, that you actually go there anyway. You'll find all sorts of little tips about how to look at the game. You'll also find different guides over time as well, where people actually sort of do a little bit of a how-to. Now, I'll be sort of covering, hopefully I'll be doing a good job of covering those sorts of things in my tutorial series, which will be coming probably in the coming weeks. But it's something that, by all means, if you're wanting to be looking at what other people have been doing as well, I know that there's a few other YouTubers that will be also doing tutorial series. So quite often, those sort of resources are all placed in there. But there's also written guides, and they're often really cool because you can sort of skim through to what you want to be looking at and having a look at that one. Now, I want to highlight, even before the game was launched, one of the beta testers, one of the forum members called Scott2933, has written an excellent guide, and I would highly recommend that you read that pretty much, even before you start playing the game, to be honest, because or even while you're playing the game. That for me is a really good companion document for getting into the game. It explains very simply what things are, what to look for, how to approach things. So I would highly recommend that particular guide. Now, there will be others that will follow that as well. I know that there's a big community of people who do write these guides at the Matrix forums. Just gamers like you and me who love doing what they're doing. So by all means, have a look there. They will tend to find their way to the Steam forums as well, usually, but the Matrix forums is where most of those things sort of do start their life. And so anyway, I just wanted to go through there. I've spoken about my own nexus.gg/DasTactic's store, so if you do want to buy the game, then that does help my channel and help what I do. But if you do want to get it that way, so by all means you can grab that, and lots of other games through there as well. As I say, it's basically you just get a Steam key, so it's like buying it from Steam. And also I wanted to just thank my Patreon supporters as well for your ongoing support, and just look at the different links that I've got in the description there. Now, I'll be streaming this game a lot over the coming years, so and I stream predominantly over on Twitch, so it's twitch.tv/DasTactic. Again, link in the description. All right, let's get out of that way and sort of continue on now with what we're actually sort of doing. Now, we're still waiting to get our early warp drive. Let's just unpause this. There's not really a hell of a lot going on. We really are stuck just in this little local area. Here we go. It's now saying, do you want to build this research station? Yes, we do. Assign the mission. And so our constructor ship, and let's have a look at this. This is why I like looking at these things. This guy has just picked up all of these different resources, like 164 steel. He's got 18 polymer, 16 silicon, 16 mebnar, 12 carbonite, and 4 necros stones. So we can sort of see that he's actually got like a cargo on board. And that cargo is going to then be used to build the actual base. And he's going to just limp his way across here because we still don't have the warp drive yet, so it's going to take him forever to get there. Ultimately, by the time he gets there and builds this thing, we're probably going to be fairly well advanced. This is very early days just yet. So we were lucky to find a research centre back over here. Now, don't expect to find them straight away. Like you can go like a long period of the game without actually getting one, but they really do boost our research along once we actually start to get them. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about, what are these resources and how do they actually sort of then work. So let's just quickly go through how the resource system works, because we do have a long wait while this guy just uses his impulse impulse drives to move across into that particular position. If we have a look on our actual home world, we'll then sort of see that we've got resource shortages in through here. If I click on this, even if it says 0, just click on it. It will then open this thing up, and we can then sort of see what we've actually got. Now, we've got on hand, we've got 5,000 Caslon, and we want to have 20,000 of it. So we're a long way behind with the actual Caslon supply. We've got these are our construction resources back in through this side. So we've got Aculon, Argon, Carbonite. Now, the Carbonite, we want to maintain a level there because we need this for building. You saw that we had Carbonite on that particular craft in there as well. Caprica, Emros crystals, Kaisian crystals, these are all used for construction. Mebnar, we need to have a little bit more. We've got 766. Okay, the spaceport has now just been constructed. I'll just say okay, it's all fine. Necros stone, we need to have like a reserve of 100, but we've got 722 at the start. We have to be very careful of this stuff. Osalia, we don't really need to have reserves of it at this stage. Polymer, we need to have, we're getting close to the limits we want with polymer. Silicon we need. Steel we need a lot of, a hell of a lot of this. And so as we build different things, you'll notice the steel will go down very, very quickly. Actually, I'll keep that on pause because I do want to talk about this in just a minute, but let's just get these resources out of the way. And then Tiderius as well. So these are our basic construction resources. Now, what I can then do is have a bit of a look, and we can sort of see that we've got like a mining location where steel is actually being mined at our home system. And you can see there with the number of sources, we've got one source of steel that we are aware of, and we're mining it in through there. We also are aware of Kaisian crystals somewhere as well, so we've actually now found 2 locations for that one. We're not mining any of those. We've got the Necros stone we're aware of as well at this point in time. Emeros crystal. So a few of these things, like Caslon is our fuel source. We're aware of one of them. We'll be wanting to get like some sort of mining station built up through there. These resources are not global. So it's not like the money. The money is a global resource, but resources are at location, at ship. They have to be basically taken to where they're needed. And this is one of the great things about this game, is making sure that your resources are flowing and that you have enough of them. I say a great thing, and making it sound like it's a incredibly fun thing to do, to look after shipping steel and polymer and stuff around the galaxy. You don't have to worry about it. There's a private enterprise to do that, but you just have to make sure that everything is working to protect those crucial supply lanes, so on and so forth. Now, fairly soon, we're going to get raided by pirates, and they're going to be trying to land on Bullinus, which is our homeworld. And if we don't protect the homeworld, they could start to steal this resource, and we're going to have a hard time replacing these in the early part of the game, and we need them for building things. So let's have a look and see what the other. Actually, I'll just dismiss this one. This is the hyperspace technology has now been discovered, so we can now start to build ships with warp drives. So we've now got the warp drive in through there. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And with that, we've got a new scientist that has now appeared as well, which is perfect timing because we're going to have a research base fairly soon. So here we go. This guy has got all these different resources on board. Now, the constructors tend to be the ones that carry this stuff around because they then have to make use of it. So it's moving that across this expansive space over to here to build a research station. And if we go across to our construction and our ship designs, and we go down to resort station or research station in through here. This is the one that we're looking at, and edit it. You can see we've got none of them at the moment. If we go and click on edit, this is actually this is the design that we're going to be then building. So this is the research station that's going to be built at that particular location. This is what's actually on that particular research station. We've got a few empty slots in through there. We've got no defenses. We don't actually bother with any actual drives, so like it's sort of showing there that we can actually have them. I don't know. Oh, sorry, that's sensors. That's not drives. I was thinking, why are there drives there? But you can see we can put like different sorts of sensors on through here, including large ones. And we also got different docking bays, or we can actually also then put on different other defense like hangars and things like this eventually, once we've got all the tech for those. So it's pretty weak at this early stage. But to put all these things on, like a basic fuel cell, for example, you can see there costs 4 steel. A space reactor costs 4 Mebnar and 2 carbonite. An energy collector costs 4 silicon. So every component, including the cannons, this is steel, Mebnar, and carbonite. We've got 4, steel. Sorry, back in through there. The seeking missiles is steel and Necros stone. So everything does cost a little bit, of different sorts of things. And so if we scroll down to the very bottom of this right-hand panel, what we can then see is what it requires. 164 steel, 18 polymer, 16 silicon, 16 Mebnar, 12 carbonite, 4 Necros stone is what the resources are to build one of these particular stations. Does that ring a bell? If we close that one off and just sort of let it do its thing, it's if we go and have a look at this one, 164 steel, 18, 16, 16, 12, 4. So it's picked up the resources to build this at this location. It can't just magically take it there and build it. It has to actually go and physically take it to that location to then start the construction. And this is one of the things about the game that makes it really, really interesting. There's a few other little things that we're going to start to see as well with the different resources. Back over here, we're building, like the game is just building its own private enterprise. And so the private enterprise ships, for example, this is a hauler. This is just this can sort of ferry resources. So if this guy was over here doing something and it had run out of resources, they can call in, like these haulers can come across with resources that are required. This here is a mineral miner that's being built. It's still under construction. There's probably going to be a few others that will be under construction as well at this point in time. This one here is another light hauler. But this mineral miner can then just go and essentially just mine other planetary bodies anyway. So that one could come across and mine the Caslon. This guy here over here is doing a survey of this particular planet. We're at level 1 at the moment of the exploration levels, and so it needs to get up a bit higher before it can then sort of do other things as well. So anyway, it's just interesting the way it sort of does work. We don't know anything at all about this one. Actually, that's at level 1 as well at this point in time. And so this is just our local system. Over here, we've got another gas giant with other, like an ocean world, volcanic world. And so different sorts of resources will become available at the different planets. But in this early stage of the game, don't worry too much about it. There are other resources that we haven't actually hit yet. In fact, if we have a look at Blumentris, or we actually, Blueness, I might just rename this to DasTactic's. That way, at least I can say what the name is, and I won't stumble over it. So DasTactic's is our home world, and so in through this side, we only have steel as a resource here at this point in time. We only have an exploration level of 6. Now it's saying completely explored, but ultimately over time we'll be exploring more and more of these particular worlds. Anyway, let's just unpause this and continue on. So. Yeah, so the mining ship will be built eventually. Now, these will then start to be retrofitted. If we go back to our ship designs, we'll start to see we've got like Escort 2, the EX2 Scout is our exploration ship. And if we have a look on board these things and have a look and just go to edit, we'll see that they're now going to have a skip drive on board. So the game is automatically designing this. It'll also tell you, hey, it's time to buy some more of these things. You don't have to worry about it. So it will just do its own thing. We don't have to worry too much about what this one's doing, but it is in there if you wanted to sort of see how the AI is designing the ships for you. And we will actually change that a little bit later on, but we don't have to worry about that. And again, it's whatever you guys want to do. So don't feel that you sort of need to be sort of focusing on anything sort of too much. Build ships, here we go. 3 more exploration ships, please. Yes, because we've now got the skip drive, now it's time to start to find more resources around the place. And so what's going to happen through here, if I go and click on the spaceport, we'll see that it's queued up it's awaiting an exploration ship in through there. Actually 3 of those. Looks like another one has just come out of there. This one is a light hauler. We don't really need them so much just yet, but this is the private enterprise. They're buying them from us. We're constructing them, but they're actually paying us for that construction. We've got a mining ship, which is also being sort of constructed in there as well. These will eventually be constructed. They can be constructed either in the spaceport or from orbit. Like this one is getting close to being is under construction at 54% directly from the planet. While we've got a few that are being built sort of in around here. That's another scout ship that's being built. Small freighter being built in through there. So this will then sort of show that these guys are being built. Like if I double click that, you can see it's in the middle of the actual spaceport, just under construction. Okay, so anyway, that's covers the resources to a degree. Now, playing on normal mode, we'll have most of our resources in our local system, so we'll sort of find them. Now, I'll also just point a few things out about the screen, just so you sort of can find your way around fairly easily. So when you're in here, what you'll sort of see down the bottom here, this is like a handy reference of where things actually are in the game. So when I'm looking at the overall system, we'll then sort of see our spaceports. If we've got different ships, they'll sort of be highlighted in through here. I can start to sort of like have a look and see what's where and who's doing different sorts of things. We also have some other ships. There's an unknown ship over here that we're aware of, but we know nothing about it. So I can go and click on that one if I wanted to and think, oh, okay, well, what's in here? There's an asteroid belt, and there's some sort of ship in here that we're aware of. We just don't know anything at all about it. So it's probably an abandoned ship. We may be able to make use of that eventually. We now have a spy as well. We don't really have it. Actually, one thing I forgot to do, sorry, we're talking about resources. One thing I would advise you to do is we start off with just a strike trooper brigade. Get up to about 5, just to sort of stop the pirates from raiding those all-important resources. Now, we have to build these slowly over time. You can see we're at 1%, we're at 3%. It'll slowly build up. When the pirates arrive, I want to have at least, say, 3 ready to go, and possibly more, because it can be tricky kind of keeping them off your worlds. We don't want them stealing resources. I don't mind them stealing money. I don't mind them doing other things, but the pirates will be here soon, and they will be looking for raiding the actual homeworld, and we'll need to protect that. Now, playing as the humans, we do have a story benefit where, because we're sort of playing the story, we can do different things with that, which will then help us along with that anyway. So, new exploration ship complete. Great. So we're just going to have these guys are just going to go off and start to look at different things. They're going to be looking at the other planets as they sort of go and get those. Now, what was I talking about? I forgot what I was actually talking about through there. Anyway, we'll just keep on waiting for the prompts that will sort of appear. No, that's right. I was talking about what's happening over through here. You'll notice that as I start to go in closer to the actual little system through here, it's going to then sort of switch. So it's now just focused on what we're looking at through here. So we're just looking at literally this one here. And as I go even closer to my actual colony, even this changes down through this side as well, where we are only really looking at the little local system back in through this side. And so as I scroll back out, one of the good things, one of the interesting things with this is when you get used to what the different sorts of planets might have on them, you can look for specific resources on particular types of planets. Like, for example, if there's a volcanic planet, it'll probably have Necros stone. And over through here, we can then sort of see where these planets actually are. We've got a main sequence star. We've got a rocky metallic planet, which may have steel. We have a rocky silicon planet, which, guess what, may have silicon. We've got Dirican 3, which we've already actually found that has got some Caslon. That's our first Caslon mine. We've got the forest moon that we saw there before. We've got Dastopia, the continental moon, and so we're sort of doing it from the close ones, further out. These are planets followed by moons. We've got the carbonaceous moon, another gas giant back over through here, which we know nothing about. Another gas giant at the back there as well. Then we have an ocean moon in through there, which is this one's also got three different moons. A volcanic moon. Now this is probably where we're going to end up getting Necros stone. So if you have a very particular need for something, then you can have a look in the Galactopedia to sort of see what's available on these particular sorts of planets. This is a mangrove forest moon. We have a gas giant planet over through here. We have a marshy swamp moon back over this side as well. We have a frozen ice planet back over there, and we then have a Rusk, the rocky asteroids that we just sort of saw there before as well. And so you're going to get these sort of like big, usually with these sorts of systems, like a lot of different planetary bodies that have all got different sorts of benefits. So for example, like this one here is unexplored at the moment. What can we expect to see on a frozen ice planet? Well, if you go up to your Galacticopedia, just hide that one for a second, go to star and planet types. What was it? It was a frozen ice planet. So frozen ice planet is the one through here. And so we can typically sort of find that this will have Tidarius, Hexadorium, Vodkal, Trillian Down, Jacanta Ivory, and Atarian Fur. Now, some of these, at the top here are the construction resources, and then these are all luxury resources. So that's sort of typically what you might sort of find there with the percentages of what they're going to actually be there as well. I'll just have a look. New exploration ship has now been completed as well. And so the Galacticopedia is really, really valuable in actually sort of seeing, okay, well, what does a carbonaceous planet have? Like that one that sort of is right near us there, that moon. It's going to have like the chance, fairly good chance for emerald crystals, for polymers, carbonites. We don't actually have any of those yet, but we're going to need them, a lot of them, and then a couple of luxuries as well. Now, you'll get used to what the luxuries will actually end up being as well as you sort of play. Again, don't worry too much about it. The game will as I say, look after you as it sort of plays anyway. So we don't have to sort of rush into anything that's actually happening in through there. Now, we're just going to, the game will sort of slowly try to build the infrastructure. You can see there that no one's actually made a jump yet. Now, they will soon. These starships that we're just constructing, they're this is retrofitting. This particular one has come back in. This is the friendly relic that we started with, and it's now doing a retrofit. We haven't told it to do that. It's just coming in to get the skip drive put onto it. And there we go. The first ship has actually done a jump. So it was one that was over here somewhere. If we scroll across, yeah. So it jumped from here to somewhere else. So one of our ships, the Diricun Illusion, has engaged its hyperdrive, allowing our Empire to travel faster than light for the very first time. There we go. So we'll just dismiss that one. And we'll see, if we scroll back, we'll sort of see it somewhere. It won't be very far away. In fact, if I just unpause, well, I've got the game unpaused. Where are you off to? Where are you off to, game? Not sure where it's actually jumping to. There it goes. It actually jumped across to here to start exploring this one. So it jumped from there to there, and it's now sort of doing an exploration of this. And so these ships will then just keep on doing that. What we'll find is that in fact, the other ship that had gone off to build that particular area, where are you? Construction ships. Let's just have a quick look at the construction ships. Retrofitting. So this one's come back. The Silent Impasse has come back. Doesn't have any it's taken everything off, like all the cargo off it. Yeah, its research station is queued to be built here, but it's gone back for retrofitting because it's going to ultimately be faster for it to turn around, go and retrofit, then jump across than what it was going to be doing with just the impulse drives. So the impulse drives are very, very slow, but you do your combat with impulse drives. So the warp drive is really just there we go. We've got another one that's now going across to have a look at this little planet in through this side. And what we can do is we can say to these guys, look, I don't want you to go there. I want you to go and tell me what's over here. Like, what is this ship that we were looking at? Construction of the new exploration ship is now completed. Okay, let's go and have a look at that one. Maybe we go and pick that one up. Your exploration ships will be in here, and so we've got. This one, the Smiling Expedition, is just leaving. If I double click it, there it is there. And so it's going to go and survey a Skissener in our system. Now, Skissener will be another moon over this way. It's a mangrove forest moon. But let's say to it, hey, we want you to go over here and tell us what this other ship was that we weren't really... Actually, it's now disappeared, whatever it was that was over there. Now, it may have just been another freighter from outside of everywhere. Or we can go and tell it to go and start to scout those little areas. So let's just go across to Smiling Expedition and tell it to go and scout this little zone over this side. So let's just go and say, go and start exploring these rocky asteroids. Now, one thing you'll notice when I do this one is we've got the automation on through here. When I go and right click on it, it's then going to go and survey Rusk, like the actual asteroid belt. And it's now going to manual control, which means we have to now tell it what to do by doing that one. If I press control and click, I get a few other little things. I can either go survey there or move there or stop. Or if I just right click, sorry, if I just go back and press the back arrow, I can then pick up whatever I had selected there before. If I right click and keep the mouse down, I get the same thing. So let's just go to survey. So it's going to go across now and survey that, but it's on manual. This shows it's on manual as well. So just be aware that if you do this, it can be a problem. Now, I still want it to go and survey this because I do want it to have a bit of a look inside there, because we need to find steel as well. And we're going to need more steel than just what we have on our planet. And I'm just going to go and click on this one. We can do things like auto explore, auto scout, auto spy, or fully automate. I'm just going to go back to fully automated, but it's still going to go across to what the order is that I gave. So often when you're going to be giving those sorts of orders, you still want to go back to full automation. It's telling it what to do, but you still want the full automation. So it's now going to go and change its orders. It's going to turn around and get ready to jump. So it'll sort of queue up getting the jump ready. And then off we go. And so it will then go across and survey that. And when it's finished surveying that little area, this is the one that was just retrofitted. That's the tired Twilight. We're nearly 50% through here. What I'm going to do is just going to go and crash research that one now. So let's just go and pay the 3,800. just so we can get that one a little bit faster. Discovered new resources. So we've now found a luxury resource. So this is Hapic obsidian. A rare type of obsidian is found on the surface of some forest worlds. Uses a dazzling blue or teal colour. Haptic obsidian is especially valued when crafted into knives, as obsidian blade can have a cutting edge many times sharper, blah, blah, blah. And what that then does is if we can get that back to our colonies, we end up with 5% colony development and 1% colony income. So we get a little bit of extra income from that. Now that might be an idea to start talking a little bit about how planets actually do work, just while we're sort of going off and doing all this scouting. We've still got all this building to be done as well. It will soon ask us if we want to get more construction ships, because we will be needing them as we discover more and more resources. We've only got the one construction ship at the moment back over through here. So it's now going off to build that research station. It's got no cargo yet, and it is jumping. That's interesting. It should have cargo on board. We won't have left it over there unless it sort of started building something. I don't think it will. This is now one of the little miners that we were talking about before. It's coming across to pick up whatever it can over here from Caslon, because that's what our needs are. So our shortages are saying, hey, we need Caslon, we need carbonite, and we need a few other things. We need polymer, but we don't know. Actually, there is one source of these, but go and get Caslon because we need it urgently. So that little mining ship, we don't have any control over it. It's just going there to go and get that one. Now we've found carbonite. This is great at Aruma. That's not that one. If you just go to show me, it'll then take us. This is a carbonaceous world. So we've got 3 different things here. We've got polymers there as well. And so we're now finding the resources that we require around the place. And so that little explorer is now going back over to here. And eventually they'll just go through the whole system where they're sort of looking at different things in through that side as well. Now we're going to talk about the actual colonies. Now, eventually you're going to end up with a big long list of colonies. So the colonies tab is this one here. So by the way, I'll just quickly go through this one. This is your, I'll just go back to the economy and through the side. This is your empire. So this is your empire screen. And everything, even if I click that one a second time and close it off, if I hover over that, I get a summary of the empire. I get a summary of diplomacy, of sort of where we are with our reputation, a summary of the characters, a summary of the colonies that we actually have, exploration, resources, ship construction, research, military and civilians. Now, here we go. We've actually now found ourselves the first pirate. Now, they came a little bit earlier than what I wanted them to. So I'll just pause this for a second. We'll have a bit of a look to see what's going on here. Exploration ship Smiling Expedition is under attack by Smuggler's Rest in the Securin Guild at the Diracoon asteroid field in the Diracoon system. So if we just go across and have a look at this one, this will be... And in this that was the ship that we were looking for. It wasn't a ship at all. That's no moon. That's a pirate smuggler's rest base. This is actually a pirate base inside our local system, and this is our poor old scout, which has been disabled by this particular smuggler's rest. When we click on this one, actually I'll talk about this before I talk about colonies, and I will actually just unpause it. You can see there's a steady stream of attacks that are going back out that way. Now I think we did we manage to get away? Yeah, we did, I think. I think we managed to, maybe we didn't. I'll just dismiss that one for a second. Yeah, so we're aware of this. And so I did want to go and have a look because I thought there might have been something there, something of value. This is not of value. And so this is actually a pirate base, which is going to be very, very strong. We're not going to be able to take this thing on for a long, long period of time. So this is off limits to us, really, this particular location in our map. These may or may not appear under the pirate relations. Yeah, they're not technically a pirate. This will be like a special location. Like it is a pirate base, but it's probably not an active pirate base. If you sort of get my drift, we're not an active pirate faction. It's still a base though, and it does have like a lot of different sorts of weaponry. We can see what it's got as well. Like we can actually go and click on its design and have a really good look at what it actually has. These are things that are miles ahead of where we are. For example, it's got 3 different types of sensors, long-range sensor arrays. You can see us coming. It's got some big starfighter bays on it. It's got a construction yard. It may start to build pirate ships as well, which we're going to have to be a little bit careful of. It's got good defences, good attacks, good weaponry. It's got quantum reactors as well. We can see everything about the design. So by all means, when you sort of see different ships, have a look at it and see how it's been constructed. What are they made up of? We can sort of see there that the energy is certainly everything is working with the energy. I won't talk much about this, but have a bit of a look through this one. You'll sort of see a bit of a report there on the shielding and the armour that the thing has actually got on board. This is way, way, way outside of what we can do. To build one of these things, we'd need all of this resources here to build one. If we could ever build one, which we can't. But that's that's a pirate base inside there. So we now know that there's a pirate base there at the expense of one of our ships. I'm pretty sure we lost that particular. Yeah, we lost that ship. So that ship has now been destroyed by the pirates, and that's why I find that quite often when you're playing at a fast speed, things like that will happen and you'll blink and it'll just be over and done with and you won't have a clue what's actually happened. Whereas it's interesting to sort of see that we've got like a pirate base that's actually established itself inside our asteroid belt, inside our local system as well. And then quite often you'll find that there'll be things like that you need to contend with. Eventually we'll have to contend with it, but not yet. We don't have to rush that. At least it's not actually full-on pirates at this point in time. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the colonies and talk a little bit about how these things do work. So if you do come back up into the colonies screen and click on it, so the summary, I'll just quickly go through, shows you the colony approval. And at the moment, we've only got one colony and people are content. Like they're in the second one across. They're not happy, but they are content. And that's an important aspect of what goes on. And so when I click on the colony screen, it then comes through with colonies down through this side. And there's DasTopia with our 2.2 billion people on board, or on the actual planet itself. The little summary that we see through here is happiness. We see the actual development level of the actual planet itself, and we see the actual amount of the resources up through here and the abundance of mining. Abundance means how easy it is to mine. And so if you've got like an abundance of like 5%, it means it's going to take a hell of a long time for your miners to mine it. If you've got sort of things like 69%, they're going to be mining steel pretty quickly, but we go through a lot of steel. So we need a lot of other mining stations around the place, and we'll just go through these discoveries. So more luxury resources back in through there, and discovery back in through there. So we found another 3% scenery from swampy caverns of Diracoon at that particular location. So this one's got like this particular, if you go to show me, this little world, this mangrove forest moon through here has got a location bonus of scenery, which allows us to then build a resort base. So that's actually a viable resort base location. And it's close to where we are, so that's something we could actually build later on. Anyway, we'll continue on with what we're doing through here. So, DasTopia back in through this side. When we sort of hover over that one, it's just going to show it there. If I go and click on it, it will then select it down the bottom here and then show the screen in through here. So what we'll then see when we do this, the 5 is then, actually what I might do, we've now got that one. I might just pause this while I talk about this. I'm not very good at explaining while things are sort of going on elsewhere. And this is actually fairly important to get a bit of an understanding as to what's going on. This is where you're going to get most of your resources or most of your money in the early part of the game. And you can see there we're getting 3,309 per year coming in from this particular location, and so this is the all important number, and so we need to sort of figure out, okay, well, why are we getting that amount? Why is it that amount? And if we have a look, when we click on DasTopia, if I even get rid of this little screen through here, we then have a further summary screen which goes into more depth down through this side, where we can see DasTopia is a continental moon. It's got a quality there of 82, which means that for humans we have a colonization suitability of 42. Again, remember, over 20 means that it's good. So this is a good planet for us, and that's going to sort of help with our population growth and so on and so forth, eventually over time. But also, it just means that we do love this particular planet. It's our home planet. It's got a diameter of 4,610 as well. So that sort of like just gives you a bit of information about the actual planet itself. You can see there before when we looked, it was completely explored at level 6. It's now level 12. It'll just keep on sort of exploring itself as it goes. Back through here, we saw the 49 development back in through that side. When I hover over this one, we've got development of 49. Now it's saying 40% from population, plus 8% from other items, plus 0% from resources. Now, what that is referring to is that you're going to have, like, let's just say that you had, like, if you had plus 50% coming from luxuries, and we don't have any luxurious resources just yet. Now, if we had, for example, the resource that was here, you can see there, this one gives us plus 5% colony development. If we can get the Hapek obsidian, and we will eventually get it back there, there'll be mining ships that will go there and get that for us eventually. Actually, there's the there's that base that we were looking at. That will eventually then go back to the home world. And when we have a look at this one, instead of it saying at the bottom there 0% from resources, it will say 5% from resources. And we need to pick up more and more and more of that over time to try to get up to at least 50% of the development coming from resources. The most we can ever have from our population, and when we look through there, is 50%. It can never go higher than 50%. So 40% is up there. Like that means we've got like a fairly robust population. It's sort of like a bit of a hyperbolic curve or a parabolic curve, or whatever they're called. Like we've got like a curve with like a logarithmic number that with diminishing results as you get more and more population. But the development, like essentially up, I think it's up until we get to half our maximum population. So at 40%, we're getting a lot of development just from the population. We're getting 8 from other items. So what are the other items? Well, they can be all sorts of different things. They can be, for example, our leader may have, it's got colony happiness. Has it got colony? I can't see anything else there with that one there. This one won't have it. We're not seeing them in there. I'm not sure exactly where this. We've got I've got the location bonuses. There we go. Plus 8% colony development from the ancient human city ruins. So we get an extra 8. So we're getting the 48 is coming, or 49 is coming from 40% population, 8% from other items, and we don't have any resources. Now there must be. It's probably going to be like 40.5 and maybe 8.5 or something along those lines. But it's essentially now 49. As our population grows, the population number will go up to a maximum of 50, and so we need to get resources in to get our development up higher. So why do we need resources? So why do we need development? This feeds all sorts of other aspects of the actual colony screen. The higher the development, the better we are with all sorts of different things. It's if we have a look, for example, down through here, this is actually the happiness. So if we go back across the screen through here. So there's our development. Now you get more information by hovering over there. I'm hoping that at some point they do actually have the same tooltips showing over through here as well. But that's your development levels in through there. You can see there that our population is 2 billion. Our maximum population is 10 billion. So we've still got a long way, a lot of growth we can actually do in there. This is also the 82% that we saw back in through that side. The size, which we saw down through there as well. The approval. Now what will happen is if you've got the game on automatic with your, you've got different things you can automate. The tax rates should be automated. The infantry recruitment, you can sort of do that yourself. As you saw, I've overridden it, but that can also just be done where the game will then just build what it thinks it needs. So leave that on auto. I would suggest leaving all these on auto. These are per planet, by the way, so I can actually turn them on or off on a per planet basis. And I will do that a little bit at times, depending on particularly with the population policy. If there's a particular planet that I don't want a particular faction to be on, I can just tell them, hey, don't go there. We'll talk about that as well in just a little while. So automate the population policy. So all of these have been. So we've got like the resource stock levels are automated. The population policy is automated. The tax rates are automated. So I would strongly suggest that you'd leave them on auto. We can also do things like, for example, increase the tax rate to 17%, and make it go so we can get more money, or drop it. So decrease tax rate to 15%. Now we've got 16% there. So we can sort of. If we do that and leave this on auto, it will do it for a little bit of time, and then it will revert back to what it wants to do. Now, what it tries to do with the tax rate is keep it so that the approval rating is +6 approval. And so by having the lowish approval at 6, what it means is that we end up getting money, but we don't get good growth. Now, the happier the population is, the more that they're actually going to be growing. Let's have a bit of a look at a few of the other little things that we can see through here. So the population, this is how happy they actually are. This is what's impacting this +7. So we enjoy living, and you can see there, the inhabitants of Dastopia are satisfied, +7. We enjoy living at the Empire's capital. We get +10 because it's our capital. We enjoy our colony's high quality environment. So again, we're getting kicking in, we're getting extra benefit for this high quality planet. So that's very, very important for happiness. So it's underdeveloped. We don't have a high enough development yet. We need to get this much, much higher. So we need luxury items to make this kick in as well. Corruption reduces our happiness. So we've got a little bit of corruption back over this side. It's not very much, which isn't too bad. The current tax rate is too high. They're going to always complain about tax. This is what the game does. It tries to use tax. In fact, if I go down, that's the only other aspect about this one. So it's going to use the tax and try to get this as high as it possibly can to keep this at +6. So if we have other factors that make them happier, like development and so on and so forth, and reducing corruption, if we can do these sorts of things, then we can go even with even higher tax. So we can keep on taxing the population to get more and more income from them. And so the way that this then works is the revenue, and if I hover over this, it won't show me in through here. It's a bit of a convoluted formula, and the game doesn't tell you what the formula actually is. But essentially, revenue comes from your development levels as well, and your population. So you've got like population and development, not maximum population, but the actual population with the development will then give you a certain amount of revenue coming into the actual planet itself. Now, some of that is being lost to crime and corruption. And so 15.6% of that 31,000, no one gets the benefit of that one. So then we have a base revenue of 26,899. So this is really our usable income for the whole of the colony. So 26,000, which is quite a lot when you consider all we're getting back for ourselves is 3,300. So there's all of this. Then we have the gross tax revenue, and this is from the 16% of that. So 16% of 26,000 comes back in as 4,300. And the support costs, we're always going to have support costs. So when we have a new planet, there's always going to be support costs, and they tend to be pretty high when you first take them over. So you can see there the factors of what support costs are. They'll never be lower than 1,000. So 1,000 is as good as we're going to get. Take that 1,000 off the 4,304, and we end up with 3,304, which is the amount of money that we get to spend back over through here for our cash. Like essentially, that will just keep on sort of feeding into. This is the raw amount of money that we actually have to play with. So to get more money, we either need to raise the revenue, make the like by getting better development, or we need to raise the happiness by getting more development and giving them luxuries and so on and so forth, which will also then get them feeling happier, which means we can tax them at a higher rate. And so all of these things have a bearing, or we can reduce corruption. They're the sorts of things that we can sort of focus on. It's things you don't really need to know about, but knowing how it sort of does work in a basic form can be quite helpful, just so you can sort of know that, I really do need to focus on luxuries, or I need to focus on something different, whatever it might actually be. So anyway, that's the way that basically works. If we now just close that one off and go across to the Empire screen, all of the different colonies that we end up having will then give us an income. And so what I've got on pause, we can sort of see the same numbers in through there. And we can see up through here, this is our cash on hand, and our cash flow is 3,330, so not very much. So we have 2,616. This is the cash on hand that we can then do things with. For example, we can't do a crash program with this because it's going to be too expensive. So I can't go into here, for example, and click on that to go into a crash program, because the crash program, as you can see down through there, about a third of the way down, it's saying crash program for 7,400. I can't afford it. Even click on it, I'm clicking away, nothing's actually happening. So that's just not going to do it. So that's why we can't initiate the crash program for the armor plating at this point in time. So that's the cash we have on hand. Now the annual income, at the moment, we've got projected is 3,304 coming from the taxation from the colonies, or one colony at this point in time. We don't have any tribute, so the tribute comes in if we have an empire paying us after a war. It might be a war settlement that comes back in. And so this is actually all we have as our income. We don't actually have much in terms of income, so we need to be taxing the colonies. So our job as the state, we're running the state economy, we don't run the private economy. So the state economy is being run really through taxation. So we need to give our populace as much as we possibly can in terms of luxury resources, higher development, higher happiness. All of those sorts of things all have a massive, massive bearing on the money that we end up getting. So we don't have a hell of a lot coming back in. Our expenses, from that money that we were actually earning, we then have expenses coming back out. We have ship and base maintenance, so we're actually paying 1,200 in that one. We've got troop maintenance. This is why the game doesn't actually build these things initially, because it does cost you. And so you can see there we've got like 1,000 is what it's projecting is what the troop maintenance is going to be. And so this is going to cost us more and more. But we do need to protect our resources from pirates. So I'm doing it. You don't have to if you don't want to. It does mean we have less money to spend. Facility maintenance, if we build particular buildings on the planets, they're going to also then have a cost. Tribute paid, if we're the ones that are on the receiving end of a war and need to sort of pay off some sort of tribute or to the pirates or whatever else it might actually be, then that will come out of our expenses. The colony growth, now we are funding a certain amount of growth and research. I'll talk a little bit about this one, but essentially we want to have extra money going into these things so we can get higher growth for our colony, because the higher the growth, the more people, the more tax, and, the more income essentially. And research as well, we want to be getting through this one fairly fast. And so this is money that we're actually investing back into that, and that's on the next screen over through here with funding levels. And that's pretty much it. And then we actually have like shipbuilding through there. If we build our own ships, then this is another expense that comes back in. Now we also then have bonus income, and so the private enterprise will be wanting to then go and build it's their own ships, but they have to use our shipyards to do it. And so they'll pay us money. In this case, it was 1,097 to build mining ships or haulers, whatever else might come through. So we've got our basic income, we've got our annual expenses, which gives us like that little cash flow that we see back over through here. But we have extra income coming in, which is why this can be in the red, but you can still actually be in the black over through here with your cash. Because whatever's left over with this extra income will then go back up and end up being cash on hand. So, but the game punishes you a little bit if you're relying on this bonus income. So just be aware of that. Now, the private cash, we don't control this. This is actually under control of the private enterprise. This is the money that we saw back in our colony when we actually clicked on Dastopia and have a look at see all of this extra money that came in through here. 22,000 of that is basically going into private enterprise at this point in time. So they've got a hell of a lot of this that they're actually spending themselves. And so they have that cash on hand. And so what we have to do is actually get them to part with that cash down through here. You can see there we go. The private colony revenue is 26,000 that sort of came in overall. The private ship maintenance, so they had to pay the maintenance costs on the ships. Colony taxes is what goes back out to us. Private shipbuilding, 2,200, 600 is you can see there the 1,097 was back over through here. This is where they buy the ships from us. So they're projecting that they're going to be spending 2,260 for buying new ships from us, which gives them a cash flow of 20,000 all up. They're getting that every year. We're getting 330 as an example. And so that's in basic terms how things do work. You want this to be as healthy as possible, and so you want them sort of eventually they'll just keep on investing more and more and more into getting mining ships and all sorts of different things to look after their own economy. You've got no control over the private economy, so just be aware of that. But they will be buying their ships from you. That's how we're going to be making all of our bonus income. That will end up being quite a big amount of what we end up having over time. But the thing we have to be aware of is that with the cash flow that we actually have, if we have a look at the funding levels, we can then sort of see what we actually have available to us. Now, we have, and again, I would strongly suggest keeping this on automated. Ideally what we want to have is leftover money and you can see we've got like certain amounts that have now just been shuffled around to try to sort of keep, like this is the cash flow that we see back over through here. So of the income that we have, we've got a reserve of 10% for the cash flow, which just is supposed to sort of feed back into this one over through this side. We should then have a little bit left over at the back end of this one. And so we've got an excess of 746 after everything has sort of been paid. And so that excess is then reinvested back into growth and research. And what we want to have is really we want the research going as fast as it possibly can. Again, just let the game do it. It's confusing to look at this thing, like particularly when you're coming into it in a vague way. Just be aware, like if I go and unclick that and then go across to the research tab, what we'll see is the important thing to look at with this is this little summary through here. We have a spaceport and we have a research station. Now, the research station hasn't kicked in properly just yet, but it will very, very soon. And so that we've got like a, in fact, you can see there, we've got like when that research station is built, we'll then end up with like about 26 or so research coming back in that way. And when we look at this one, we've got 15, our population will always do some research. And so we've got 15 research coming in from the colony populations. We have 17 from the research station, which just happens to be the spaceport that's back over through there. Now, the research stations, if we're not investing that bit of money in through here with the funding, if we don't actually have an amount to reinvest back in for that one, we only get half the research from the research stations. So just have a look at these. If they're the same number, that's great. It means that you've got excess money going back into it. And if you don't, like you may sort of find that this will eventually, it's saying through there, 17 from research stations, and of that we need 45% funding level is 336 credits. And so the maximum funding we can use is 336 credits. So the game will look after that for you if there is excess money. Now, if you spend all your money all the time, that component, the 17 that you see from research stations, will halve. Whatever that amount happens to be, that will be half if you don't have any extra money, or somewhere in between if there's a little bit of money dribbling on into that particular funding levels. So just be aware that the research, you could sort of you could just slow down your research if you don't actually look after your economy. You don't have to micromanage this at all. I just wanted to explain sort of how it does work. It is convoluted. I probably spent way too much time actually talking about that one, so I'll just let that one sort of go. But anyway, I did actually talk too much. What I tend to do, the TLDR of all of that, is just turn that on and just have a bit of a look there to see how your money's going. It's probably more reliable than looking over through here. That's what I tend to find anyway. Not that you can do much about it, like in the short term, but it's always just worth having a bit of a look to see how things are actually developing. So I have spent a fair bit of time talking about that one. Now we're getting close, probably within half an hour. I should probably try to wrap this up. We've spoken about the basics of, and again, we don't have to do all of the stuff I'm showing you. Set and forget. It's the game's doing all that for you. You don't need to worry about it. It's generating its own money. You don't have to do anything with that one. It's just nice to sort of know where it's coming from. It's wanting us to now build another construction ship. Yeah, go ahead. Your job is just to get the rubber stamp and go, yes, approved, or no, don't do that. And as we get more research, we'll have more and more opportunity to do different things. What I might do is I might pause the game now, and then we'll come back when the pirates arrive, because they will start to arrive once we start to get mining bases established, which won't be very long away. So I'll catch you, well, it'll be immediate for you guys, but it'll be coming up fairly quickly for me. Or actually, it'll take me, no, it'll be quickly for you and a long time for me. There we go. All right, so I'm back again. We've only just gone a little bit further now. So this research station is almost built. So let's just have a bit of a look at this one. We do actually have 2 scientists on board already, even though it's not completely constructed. It won't take very long. All right, we're at 96%. There we go, research station constructed. That's really the first, I guess, space base that we've actually constructed in the game at this stage. Quite often it'll be a mining station that you do first. We're very lucky that we ended up finding a research station through here. If we dismiss that one, just a very quick look at what's going on through this side. So you can sort of see when I do click on this one, we've got like the maximum potential research. Now with this research station is 28 from there, is the most that we can have. if we don't have enough money coming into it, now I've spoken probably a bit too much about how to sort of control the money side of things, or how to look at the money side of things. You can see that we're not quite getting the full credits. We need 840 credits available to be able to then sort of spend to get the most of their research. We're getting 54 out of 57. Now, there's a chance that both of these will output just half of what they have if we don't have any money going in there at all. So just be aware of that. And again, that is just for the sake of going through it, is our funding levels down through here. The excess that we actually have at the moment, because we're trying to get all of our research done, all of this, the AI is putting all of that into research. And so it's anything that's available until it hits the limits, and then it will change that. So it will look after this for us. At the moment, it considers the research to be the most important. I do too. And so that's something that is really quite important. Some players will actually reduce the reserved amounts, but then it means you sort of have to then run this in manual mode, which does become a bit of a problem. It's a little bit too difficult to manage all of this yourself. So I'd suggest just leaving it on automatic. But anyway, that's why the research isn't quite hitting the limits just yet. Almost, not quite. Now the next thing it should actually ask us is, this is actually where we've got Caslon, and it's going to be wanting to build a mining station here. I'm sure it will actually ask that very, very soon. So we can actually tell it to do this, but let's just wait for the AI to say, hey, let's build this mining station right here. Now it's just finished a construction ship, and that should then mean that it now wants to go and use that construction ship for something. In fact, there's an extra construction ship that was back over through there now as well. So there will be a couple of construction ships just floating around, not doing much at all. Yep, that's retrofitting. It's gone back for retrofitting. Here we go, build a mining station. So one construction ship has gone back for retrofitting. This one is now ready to go. So yes, build the mining station back over here. It wants the fuel. Now what this will then do, soon after we have this one built, it will then trigger the pirates. So let's just now go and wait for them to arrive. And then we might call this video to an end. I think that sort of gives you, at least gets you into the game. I'll talk a little bit when the pirates come about ship design, why you really can't do much about the pirates at the very start of the game. But if you are playing as the humans, you do actually have a bit of a head start with the pirates. Now this is the actual construction ship that's going to be going off to build the mining station, and what it will do is it will come in close to the planet and pick up supplies. It shouldn't take too long to do this one. You can see it's got nothing in the cargo bay at the moment, but it will pick up what it needs to build the mining station. And once it's got those, it will then move across. It can take a little bit of time just while it manoeuvres. We've got another one back over here somewhere as well, I think. I think it's underneath there somewhere. Anyway, we'll let them go. Let them continue on. It's interesting to sort of watch the AI basically do what it's got to do to get things sorted. Actually, it is struggling a little bit there. Actually, here comes the other one to go off and build its. There's another mining station that it wanted to have built. So that one's now got everything it requires for the mining station. We've already had a look at that. So that'll just basically go off with those materials. And I think the one's going up here somewhere, I think, to build something out that way. Unless it's going to be one of these. Might be this one here, I think. Anyway, I'll pause and come back when the next sort of component sort of comes up on the screen. Actually, one thing I haven't really spoken about the research build queue, because we've been selecting what we want. I'm going to let this one now run through, and like this is the last one in the actual list. You can see there's nothing else happening in through there. Again, if I'm wanting to, I actually probably don't have enough money to crash research this one, but I'll let it happen, and then it will just pick its own research, what it wants to sort of then do next. So you don't have to get too involved in anything, really. You can just sort of leave it all alone. Here she comes. So this silent impasse is actually now coming across to build the mining station, which will be over here now. I've got another one being built over this way as well. So that will then sort of set up and get ready to build. Now, once this is done, we've almost done with the armor plating. Let's just sort of let that happen. Now, it's going to be building a mining station 2, a Mark II. And after it gets the armor plating, which will be in 1 day's time, it will then change to a different sort of design. Now, it will still probably build this original one because it hasn't brought what it needed to put on standard armor. So at the moment, it's still got the order to build the MS2, But if we go back into the ship designs and have a look at we'll see that there's now an MS3 design. And so this particular one, if we go and edit that, we can then sort of see that it will have standard armor now on board. So this will have a different build queue. It'll have more steel than what the other one had at 176 steel, whereas the other design, the MS2, which is what this one is actually building at the moment, has only got 164 steel. So the extra steel was there for the armor. And you'll see there that it's now sort of, okay, well, I've been told to do nothing, so let's go and build these expanded civilian ships. He considers that to be the next most important thing. There we go. We've actually now finished the first mining station, which is back over through here. This is the mining station around the carbonaceous moon. The construction of our first mining station allows us to gather large quantities of valuable resources for use in powering the economy of our home world and building more starships. Our freighters will soon begin travelling to this new mining station, returning its resources to our home world. These resources may even be sold to others in the galaxy, further boosting our fledgling empire. We should keep building more new mining stations, especially targeting key resources that both our shipbuilding and homeworld require. Great. Okay, so that's now going off and mining the actual planet, and we'll sort of see. Yeah, we've got different other orders that we've sort of given it. Let's just go back across and just watch what actually happens in through here. So what will happen initially is it will start to build the hull of the actual spaceport, and so that's actually what's happening through here. And so we can see there when we hover over this one, we'll see under construction is 11%, but the other little component underneath there is actually just the hull. That's the hull strength. Once the hull is at 100%, we can then start putting things inside it. So at the moment, there's nothing inside there. When we hover over there, you'll see that most things are just left. We've got the amount of what it wants to build, and then it's got unbuilt in the midst in there as well. Now, once it gets to 100, we'll then start to see the components will start to be built, and they'll go from unbuilt to normal as things do sort of develop. It's just, again, you don't have to know about it. It's just interesting to sort of watch what the game does, how it sort of operates. So we've got the 3 layers. We only just got armor, so this particular design doesn't actually have armor on it. There we go. Hull is now at 100%. If you hover over there, we'll see it's now 100% in that little bar at the base, but the construction is just 36%. Now, it will sort of keep on skipping, like it's just gone to 40, which means it's built, like we've got now 2 weapon components, which are now considered to be normal, 3 considered normal, and it will just go through until the whole amount is then sort of developed. Now, typically in the game, after you get this Caslon mine, your fuel mines established, is when the pirates will start to show up soon after that. Okay, so we've very nearly gotten to 100% now for this particular mining station. So we can have a look. All the lights have just come on, and it's now going to be mining the actual planet itself. You can see it's picking up the resources in through here into its cargo bay. The actual construction ship will now sort of disappear, and it will go off and do something else. It'll have another task that it wants to be given. So it's going to be jumping. It's going to be going back to retrofit. This one wasn't quite retrofitted up to the same level as the others, so it will go back and get fixed up. And in the meantime, this one will just keep on accruing, and what we'll then find is that there'll be other ships that will now want to be coming across, like they're building more light haulers back in through here, or the private enterprise. So this little light hauler through here will be going to the moon mining station and coming back again. In fact, that one's got carbonite and polymer on board, so it's going to drop them off at the spaceport. It then becomes available on the planet as well when that actually does happen. So where else have we got little things? There should be there's mineral miners back in through there, retrofitting at this point in time. Yeah, it's all happening. There's a lot of little light haulers, which are, this one's coming back with more materials. This one's coming in. That one there is coming in. It will then pick up the materials that it requires, hopefully. Sometimes it doesn't pick up anything, but generally it's going to be coming in. The mining station, you saw there, it just all got picked up. In fact, it got picked up and probably put into this one. Actually, no, it didn't. Where did it all go? Where did it all go? It's only a small amount there. One of the haulers. So it's this one. Yeah, this one's now picked up all of the materials and is now going to be heading back again. It's just great the way the economy does work. This one's just come out of hyperspeed. Back over here, we've got more coming back in. This hauler will come into this particular location now, pick up the fuel, and send that one back to the capital, and so, or back to the home world. And so the home world, we can either go to the home world and look at the resource shortages. We can see there we're nearly out of Caslon, nearly out of fuel. And so this will then sort of, the haulers will start to bring this one back. At the moment, we've only got 136 Caslon left in everything that we've been doing. Keep on hovering over the over this one here, which is what triggers that one there. But that's that resource shortages is quite important, as you can sort of see. And so we now have one mining source of two that we're aware of. And so the haulers will actually come out. There we go. That one doesn't have any Caslon as such. Must be something else that's picked up the Caslon, I would imagine. Yep. No, they'll just do their own thing anyway. They sort of just continue moving forward. So I can actually have a look at the same resources here. A little bit has been added there. Not much. They'll pick up more and more. Actually, there's a lot left over here. You can see there's a lot left. And this one is going to be reserving. You can see they're maintaining 2,400 back in through this side. If I just go and click on that one, it's trying to maintain levels of 2,400. And it's then got the leftovers for... you can see there it's reserved a certain amount because someone wants to come here for refueling. It's just interesting the way it does work. Again, you don't have to know why it's doing this, but there will be a certain amount now put in reserve because there will be one of the spacecraft will be coming in to use that amount to refuel itself. And we could sit there and watch that actually all happen if we wanted to. There we go. We can actually go back and get a second one as well. I'm just going to keep on assigning these missions for these different mines. One that will be interesting, and I do want to hope that it will sort of pick it up for us, is that we have an asteroid belt in through here. And the asteroid belts will have, like, this one has got like a lot of Mebnar and Caprica. Actually, they're quite good amounts. So it should actually ask us if we want to be building something through there. But quite often you'll find that there's lots of small amounts of steel and Mebnar in and around these different sorts of... In fact, that's got a lot of steel through there. When you build a mining station in amongst an asteroid belt, it can sort of pick up like a few different asteroids. So it's a good idea just to let it wait a little while for it to then go and do the, to just check that it's got everything that it actually does need. Otherwise, you'll only be sort of picking up or potentially picking up a small amount. So let it sort of go through its process a little bit before you commit to building for such small amounts as, for example, where was it? That one that was 3% is no good, but 20% is actually good. Here we go. So this one wants to build at one of the at Quinina, which is a moon. So we'll assign that mission. Pretty much anything that's going to moons or planets, if it asks you to do it, it's generally a good idea. But the asteroid belts, it's a good idea to wait a little while before you sort of see what's going on with those. Well, let's just wait now. I'll just put the game on pause, and fairly soon I think we're going to start to see some pirates. It's interesting just watching the infrastructure grow slowly over time. We're seeing more and more haulers coming through, all sorts of different things now going off to build certain aspects, building different mining stations. It's just such a living galaxy. It's just great. There's very few games like this. Look at all these haulers now that we actually have, waiting to sort of pick up materials. It's got no mission, but it actually does have a few resources on board there. I'm not sure what they're doing with all of those, to be honest. Anyway, they're sort of moving around doing what they're doing. As I say, the pirates will be coming fairly soon. Now, no matter which faction you're playing, you are going to have pirates if you're playing with the sort of standard start. And so just make sure you do actually have, like, we've now got a fair few troops which will help. So I'll just keep on building these as we go through. Pretty much allowing it to build whatever it wants to be building. Now, playing as the humans, it's a good idea to try to have a bit of money saved up for when the pirates do actually hit. Not so much an important thing for any other faction, but it will help the humans a little bit just to have around about 25,000 or thereabouts. They'll be coming very, very soon, as I say. Now, with the actual troops that are in here, you can see that we've got one with an underline. That means it's got a garrison, which it won't be taken off the world. I'm just going to garrison all of the others. So I'm just going to go, oh, here we go. First contact. And so, speak of the devil, the pirates have now just arrived. I can still keep on doing these things, so let's just go and garrison these troops, and then we'll come back and deal with the pirate menace. The game is on pause when this message does come up. And so it's got first contact. We've encountered a new pirate faction, in the Durakan system, the Bloody Confederation. This pirate faction is predominantly composed of humans, the same as our empire. Although they are pirates, they could prove useful allies if handled properly. Initial communications with the humans have been quite successful. The humans have developed some trust with us. So these are human pirates. Now, we will find pirates of all different sorts of factions. The pirates of the faction that you're playing with will tend to be the friendliest, and we can see that they will then start to be able to sell us different sorts of things. But to be honest, if you have more than about one protection racket going at a time, you're not going to be able to keep up with the money. So you almost want to default to rejecting the deal, but there may be instances where if a pirate is too strong, that you want to then sort of continue it on. Now, if you go show me, it doesn't show you where the pirate ship is as such. What it does do is it shows you this screen. So I'll dismiss this screen, and there we go, pirates. And so we've now got the sort of the main message coming up. It appears we have company. Unfortunately, this is not the kind of company that we want. Hostile space pirates. Where did these pirates come from? Are they a scouting party for a larger empire, or are they a lone group? These pirates look well armed and are more technologically advanced than we are. This is the problem that we need to contend with, is the technological advancement. Thus, given our current situation, it would be wise to appease them in any way possible, even paying them off if necessary. Now, this is one of these things, particularly playing as the humans, I would suggest that you don't do it. Other factions, you may decide to do it, but it is going to cost you 125 per month, which per year ends up being quite an amount. And quite often you're not going to have that sort of money really floating around at the start of the game, particularly if you start paying off multiple groups of pirates. What you may want to do is actually locate the pirate ship. If we just sort of zoom back across a little bit and have a bit of a look around, they'll generally be attacking one of your stations. In fact, I'll just click on dismiss with that one, and I'm just going to pause that for a second. And I'm just having a bit of a hunt around for, now underneath there, if I just... I'll need to keep this open to be able to either reject it or allow it in. I think I have to. If I click on that one just for 1 second, I'll just minimize it. And I'll minimize that for just 1 second. I've still got it on pause. When I scroll back out, we'll then sort of see that we've got like our bases back in through here has been established. We've got Smuggler's Rest, which is a small spaceport that we'd found earlier. Back in that location, and we've got 2 escorts. Now, escorts are not going to be all that powerful. We can sort of click on them to sort of see that they've got a strength of 79. If they were destroyers, I'd probably pay them off because they're going to do a lot of damage. Escorts, so these are both targeting this particular mining station. So we've got a mining station back in through here. Our mining station, as an example, has a strength of 48. Back in through this side. This is one of our new MS3 designs, by the way, as well, which does have armor and some shielding. It's only just been constructed, so the shielding is still coming on up. Now, with these pirates, I probably won't actually bother appeasing them. So let's just go back in there. We'll just go to probably offer treaties. They still want to be doing this one through here. I'm just going to go to never mind. Essentially, I can still go in there and offer the treaty and pay that protection racket. Now, if they were very, very negative, they probably wouldn't allow us to come back and renegotiate. But in this case, we've got no reason to do it. So I'm just going to go never mind and goodbye. And so that's going to be the end of them. We're not going to worry about them at all. And what's going to happen here, we'll watch what actually does happen. They're going to attack our mining station. We've got no protection at all. Here we go. It's now offering to sell us other things as well. An unknown empire. It's not worth it. So I'm just going to say no, decline. We don't have the money for that. And these are going to then come in and start attacking my base. And so there's the outside rim of what we can actually reach, and then they'll have a smaller rim in through there for themselves. So we'll be able to start attacking a little bit earlier. Now, this will be asking us to build 3 escorts to protect this. Sometimes that's worthwhile. So they're offering us protection again. I'm going to decline that one. I'm just formally telling them I'm not going to bother playing as the humans getting the escorts. And to be honest, if I just pause that for a second, the actual escort design anyway, when we think about that was like there's a 79 strength for what they would actually do. Our design has only got, if we have a look at the strength factor of, where is it? Attack strength of 10. So it's not really going to be really all that useful. So these are not really viable. So I would just forget about them. Cancel that and don't worry about it. What they're going to be doing, the pirates will have a very specific agenda. They'll be coming in, first of all, trying to reduce the shielding. And then when they've reduced enough of the shielding, and you can always go and have a look and see what design they actually have by clicking on this one to sort of see what they actually have. So these guys have got assault pods, which have got like pirates on board to go and land on bases and so on and so forth. Now, they don't actually take the bases over, they raid them. And so this is everything we're trying to do is to stop the damage from the raids, essentially. They can steal money, they can steal resources. Now, we definitely don't want them stealing resources from our home world. Eventually, they will target our home world. But in this case, I'm just going to say no to that one. And we're now under attack. We dismiss that one. And so if we just keep an eye on this one, you'll see that as they attack, our shielding comes down to the point where they can eventually... Oh, here we go, pirate raiders. So they're attempting to now raid the mining station. I'll let that one go. And has this one taken any damage? Not really. Now they've got pirates on board. So if I just pause that one there, the bloody Confederation is attacking. They've got 360 pirates against our 170 crewmen on the actual mining station. So they're just going to now go through the mining station and disable. You'll see there on the right-hand column, they'll start to disable different sorts of areas. Like, for example, the hangars, they've got one hangar disabled so far, one weapon has been disabled, and so they'll just keep on doing this as they do the raid, and we'll lose more and more of our crew members will then be incapacitated as this actually happens, until eventually the point where the mining station ceases to function for a short period of time. So they've raided our base in through there, but they failed to obtain any loot. They didn't actually pick anything up from that one. What they'll then do is just leave it alone for a little while and then come back and try it again fairly soon. So it's sort of like a cycle where they'll keep on doing that. And they tend to pick on the ones that pick up the Caslon. So that tends to be the bases that they will go after, just so that you're aware. And then we've got another one coming back in through this side. What's this one going to be doing? This one is actually going to be targeting, it looks like it's going after this constructor. So it's going to try to sort of, and it will take over ships, but it won't take over bases. It will, so they'll just sort of come on through. They will be a menace, but playing as the humans, we actually have an event that does come up. Usually, either the first pirates we meet are the event that we have, and we haven't had that just yet, or it'll be very, very soon. So we'll just wait for that to actually arrive. But in the meantime, these guys are just going to keep on being a bit of a menace. And we'll see that when they get close enough to start attacking, so it's got unknown mission, but we can see there it is targeting that particular ship there. And it will come in. How far off are we? Still a little way off with the construction there. And it should start firing. And we're now going to try to make a run for it. We don't have shielding on this one. We've just got a bit of armor. Going to try to jump. Come on, get away, get away. Now, if they can damage enough of my systems before I jump, then they're going to be able to take me over. Yeah, hyperdrive is now offline, so now we're in big trouble. This constructor is now trying to escape, and that does actually have, like, one of them has now been damaged. More stuff is now being damaged or destroyed, and we're in a world of pain here. The hyperdrive is offline. To see what's going on with that one, we can just click on it and sort of see that the skip drive is at 99% health, so it's almost fixed. We can see the damage to the actual construction ship there. It's almost done. It's almost sort of back online again, but it's not quite there just yet. And they're just going to keep on peppering away, doing more and more damage. Here we go. This is the event, and this will be the last thing I really sort of cover, is the Ghost Fleet. So we've encountered a new pirate faction in the Dirican system, the Ghost Fleet. This pirate faction is predominantly composed of humans, the same as our empire. Although they are pirates, they could prove useful allies if handled properly. Initial communications with the humans have been moderately successful. The humans are open to further discussions with us. This is a very, very special pirate faction for the humans. This is part of our story events. So we just go, I can go to Smiths, like I can go show me, which will then open this one up. But if I just go into Smiths, they're going to then contact us. So here we go. So, hail Dirtsiders, we're the Ghost Fleet, and we have long watched over your primitive world. Our old legends tell us that many, many years ago, some of our ancestors settled amongst you. As a result of all the plague-filled dirt balls in the galaxy, we've been a bit protective of yours, and we've generally discouraged others of the clans from raiding your system. Now this has cost us over time as much as the clans are fairly ultra-violent. Anyway, the legends also said that someday you would take to the stars again, and that would be and when that day came, we would be able to rejoin our dirt-based ancestors in one happy new clan. Well, seeing as this has now happened, we figure it's time for a chat. The only thing is, we've been rereading the legend and also talking over the cost of protecting your dirt ball over the generations, and the legend says that rejoining you will return us to prosperity. We figure this means you will need to pay up. If you do, we'll know the prophecy was right and we'll join up with you. Otherwise, well, I guess we all know what not all stories turn out to be true. So what do you say? Now, we can either refuse the pirate offer and then they stay as pirates, or we can pay the Ghost Fleet off for 25,000. And that's what we're going to be doing in this case. Sorry, my dogs are barking. I'm just going to pause. Yeah, sorry about that. I've forgotten what I was talking about. Anyway, I won't reread the whole thing. So basically what this is we either have the Ghost Fleet join us or we refuse the pirate offer. Now, they have a base, and if we take us to the location of the pirate fleet base, it's in here somewhere. If we scroll back out, where is that? A little way away. So this is over here. So we end up with a base back over here, plus any ships that they actually have, which sets us off with, that's why we don't need to be building our own ships. These will be more technologically advanced than what ours are. So let's just go and pay the Ghost Fleet. And there we go. We're now going to sort of find that we've got something back over through here. It's still paused. And we've integrated the Ghost Fleet into our empire. So let's dismiss that. And the legends were true. All right, a sign of good faith and gratitude from Dirtsiders. I guess the legends are true after all, which means we share some common ancestors. If all the legends are true, then we have a lot to tell you. And maybe we need to also return to some of the older ways. And so this essentially, I won't go through all this, but it starts to give you a backstory as to what the game is all about. As in why we're here with so many fragmented little empires all over the place, why there's independent colonies. It just sets up the story from the Shaktur enemy, the ancient enemy that had come generations in the past and had sort of upset the galaxy, and sort of, you know, everything had gone into a massive dark age. And essentially that's what it's talking about through there. And then finally a lot of the pirates are like the space-based remnants of old navies, essentially. And so for the humans, it's the old 8th Fleet. And so there'll be lots and lots of stories that will come up in the actual game about the 8th Fleet. A lot of the things that you discover will be 8th Fleet designs, or, harkening back to the old human sort of side of things. And that's all part of the human storyline. So let's just dismiss this. So there's a bit more there to read. There's a fair bit to read. We do get some advances because we've actually now done this. We have advanced our understanding of advanced nuclear fission and also proton ionization. Now, this is power for the spaceships, and this one here is the impulse drives for the spaceships. It just gets us to a little bit of extra tech for the next phase of where we're sort of heading. So we'll just dismiss this. It will then go back away from pause. And if we now go across to this tab here, which is our military tab, the one on the left-hand side is military ships. And there we go. We've got 4 ships that we actually ended up getting. Now, we can see that all of these are actually identical. Actually, they're a bit less than what we're seeing there for the other ones. So, but we've got all 4 of them. Now, if we have a bit of a look, we've got the base now over here. We can now identify this one and see that it's actually right here. So we've got this particular base is sitting back out through here, and that's just going to sit there. It's pretty weak, actually. Sometimes these can be quite strong. So in this case, we happen to not luck out much at all. And so over in this side, we actually have like a a few different things on board the actual ship itself. And so if we have a look at these things, we've got an admiral, which is the old pirate captain, is commanding the Ghost Fleet base. So he's actually in command of this particular base. So we've got an admiral in through there, and we also have the final orders of the 8th Fleet. Now, if I click on that one, it's then going to go across to this colonies tab, and then across to the artifacts. And so what we end up having through here is the final orders for the 8th Fleet, at the Ghost Fleet base, and it will then tell us what this thing is all about. So, whoops, so just hover over there. So the artifact must be at a colony for bonuses to apply. So we need to take this one back to the colony. Eventually we'll need to get a ship to come and grab it and then transport it back to our home base, and then we're going to get the benefit of having extra colony development and plus 10 war weariness reduction as well. So it just makes us a bit more powerful with what we're sort of then trying to do. So just be aware of that. What we need to do, and we can't do it yet because we don't have the technology to really do this, but it would be to then go and grab this and bring it back home and then leave it at our home system. So you'll sort of find that this is on board. If we go back to the actual colony itself, back in through here, and this is a long distance. When you consider that with impulse drives, we struggle to just get in amongst these 3 planetary bodies. With the skip drive, which is where we currently are, we're struggling to even get across the solar system. We've still got other systems close by that we have to get to, and we can't do them with a skip drive. It's way too small. So we need to get to the next level of hyperspace travel really before we can even get out to here. Now, the ships that we actually ended up getting, the extra pirate ships, you can see there's a few of them in through here, and these will all come in on auto, the way that they're sort of been done. Now, what will tend to happen is the game will make use of these automatically. Like these are now going to be going off to target various, like these ships. It's going to be deciding to attack that one in through there. I'm just going to go through one last little thing with this now and just sort of show you combat and how to plan a little bit for combat. So we've got ourselves our escort through here, which has got a strength 53 against their strength 79. So theirs are stronger than ours. We have to be a bit careful of that. We have 144 shields. They have 287 shields. So even though they're escorts, our escorts are a lot worse than theirs. Now, as I say, sometimes this fleet will actually be more powerful than the other pirates, but in this case, they're actually weaker. So the game at the moment, let's just have a bit of a segue back out to automation and talk a little bit about what's actually happening in the game. So if we have a bit of a look at this and sort of see the automation settings, the policy settings. Now, we had put this on to default. I would suggest at this point that if you're wanting to be controlling the ships a little bit more effectively yourself, then change the fleet formation to manual so you can control that yourself, and we'll do that in just a minute. The fleet postures to manual so that it won't just go off and do its own thing, and the fleet ship management to manual as well. So that way it's not going to keep on trying to add ships to fleets. This one, you end up controlling the fleets, and for me that's probably the most fun aspect of the game in a superficial fashion. With that done, we now have to have all of these ships actually come into a fleet. We now have to add them to our own fleet. And so I'm just going to go back across to the military tab again, and I'm going to grab all of those. Click the top one, shift click the bottom one, and you'll see that they're not in. It doesn't say that they're in any sort of fleet in through there. With all of those selected, I'm just going to go across, create new fleet with these ships. You can rename that ship, that fleet if you wanted to. So we've got like now a full-on fleet of ships. And so with this particular fleet of ships, you can see it's now all got first fleet next to them coming through here. By the way, you can sort of, you can look at things like these are all escorts. We don't have any frigates or anything else. So you can filter by whatever you want to be looking at through here once the list becomes a fair bit larger. And so with all of these fleets, if I then press the F key, I can then cycle through all of my fleets. And you can also then I find it quite handy to grab a fleet and then just go control one. Now you can do this with anything, like whether it be a base, a ship, a fleet, but I find the fleets, if I go control one, hotkey one, set to first fleet, and that means that if I sort of select something else and then come back in and press number one, it's then going to always grab the fleet. Now I'm going to tell it to go, I'm going to manually control this to go after these pirates. I'm going to now just tell this guy to go after that one. And by the way, these actual ships, if I go and click on one of these ships and have a look at what it's got, it doesn't have a skip drive. It's got a warp bubble generator, which is big enough to then go. I could go and pick up that that item, but what I want my ships to do is to defend my system. And so these are going to be the start of our empire. And as I say, they're not very strong in this particular run through, but they will actually end up being reasonably strong themselves. Like, you know, so maybe when you play, it'll be better than what what my version is that's coming in through this side. Now, at the moment, there's a fair bit of nuance, and I won't go through this in detail, but you can set up all sorts of different tactics for the fleets back and through here. I won't talk about this much because I'll be doing this in a tutorial, going through this in a lot of depth. Also, the individual ships also end up having their own sort of way of then working. This one has an attack stance against weaker targets of being aggressive, and then neutral against stronger targets. So it'll sort of try to keep a little bit of distance. If it's aggressive, it'll try to shorten the range and use whatever the shortest range weapon actually is in through here, which happens to be this medium railgun. Its point defense, its sentinel multi-beam defense, is actually longer range at 950 than the railgun at 880. So anyway, that's the ships. Let's just unpause and watch what actually does happen through here. So they're going to be fighting each other. Now, the railguns will break their way through the shielding, ultimately. There we go. So we've now got new tech completed by final orders for the 8th Fleet. Again, this is the remnants of the 8th Fleet that we're looking at through here. So we've now got the early beam weapons that have now sort of come through from being associated with the 8th Fleet. So we'll dismiss that one. And they're just going to keep on using their railguns. Now this is probably going off to refuel, and so this is going to a place called Secret Nest. We don't know where that is, but that's going to be its base. And it's trying to jump away. Now we've got another ship coming in back over this side, the Talos Moon, who is... Okay, so now we just go and grab the first fleet again and just right click on this one, and we just keep on trying to target the various ships that are in here. Now what we can do also is this fleet is actually on manual, and at this stage that's what I do want to have. I want the ships on manual, and then they'll just basically do what they're going to be doing in through here. So then they'll go off and attack these ships. So we've got multiple of our ships now ganging up. I'll just try to get to a point. Unfortunately, these are fairly weak, our ships. I would like to get to a point where I can sort of show you how to take over another ship, because with this fleet you can actually ultimately have like a lot of different things happening. Now we've done no damage just yet. It is staying in the fight for now. We're going to take a bit more damage than what they're going to take, just a little bit, until we can bring the other ships in. Now I'm not too concerned about some damage happening, but we are getting a little bit lower. And our ship, if we have a look at this, at our ship in through this side, will actually have, it will retreat when any non-defense component is damaged. So any of the internal stuff gets damaged, it's going to try to retreat. And that's going to happen to us before them. There we go. We're jumping away because we must have had something that got damaged there slightly. It's trying to escape. Here come the other ships. And we need to gang up because we are weaker than them. But these ships are much, much more powerful than anything we can build, so we might as well just make use of this. Now we're starting to bring this one down with our railguns. And it's going to be also doing the same to us. Back in through here. Just watch what actually does happen. When the shielding drops, that's usually about a good time to then start to try to get some forces on board. Usually that's when they're going to try to jump as well. So I'll just go back to number 1. Actually, we'll just hover over that one and wait for it to go. And we're also now losing componentry as well. This one is almost gone with the shields. Let's just go back and press number 1 again, and I'm going to now right click and hover and click on capture. And there goes on board. We've now put some of our forces, even though we're outnumbered. What they're now going to do over time is slowly disable this ship. See how things are being disabled? They're turning into. It's probably going to try to jump or run. And yeah, we're disabling more and more in that blue column at the back end there. And so it's becoming more and more susceptible to attack. Eventually they'll probably shake this one off, and so we'll have to do this a couple of times. But with so much stuff now disabled, it's really a bit of a sitting duck. We've got 3 ships with assault pods that ultimately will be able to do the damage here. It can still technically run, but yeah, now we've got reactor is now offline, hyperdrive is now offline, and so this guy is pretty much stuck here. And in the meantime, we can see that our guys are sort of like, that's just basic crew that we're fighting. Even though they've got assault pods themselves, we're in charge of what's happening here. They can still shake this off, and they probably will. It often takes a few goes at getting these things. Let's just wait and see what actually happens though. So this is all offline. Everything's been brought down. It's all been disabled. Our ships are ready to go back in again. Actually, we've now found a lone trader. I'll just pause that again. So we've encountered a lone trader ship. The Mercdor Impasse in the Kuros system does not appear to be a hostile pirate, but rather an independent space trader. Could there be other ships like this? These are from the independent colonies. So I'll just dismiss that one through there. Yep, there we go. Independent colony of Keterovs has been encountered. And so they've actually now sent trade ships across to where we are. So I'll just dismiss that. We'll have a look at that in just a minute. So yeah, actually the traders tell us of that colony, so we've now been told. Let's have a quick look, and I'll just process these. We've got a new ambassador that's now arrived, now that we're getting sort of diplomatic abilities coming through. Building ships, 2 construction ships and 1 escort. I'm happy for the construction ships, but I really have no value for the escorts at this stage. So I think I'll decline that. What I might do is I might show you how to build fairly easily. So if I just sort of scroll backwards a little bit and just go back into my construction through here, just so I can sort of get 2 more construction ships. If I go to the build orders and then go down to the construction ships down through here and click on that one, and if I scroll back out, well then this will then come up nice and large, and for every area where we've actually got construction abilities, I can then just go and click on that. And so I wanted to get 2 of them. I'll just say, yep, build me 2. And I then have to click on purchase back up through there, now that I've ordered them. So I've purchased them, and then they're being built. So in the meantime, back to the fight. So this one is still struggling with with our landing forces on board. I think we may have had 2 put on there actually, which is not too bad. Let's just watch and see what actually happens here. Now see how certain things have been disabled a little bit. We're still doing okay here. We haven't got it yet. Now it's trying to move. It does have some things have been disabled. We still we've got even more forces now on board, and we've now boarded and captured this particular ship. And so this ship is now under our control, and now it wants to go off and refuel because there's no fuel left. Its shielding will come back up. Everything is looking good, and we now have a higher strength ship. So again, all I can then just do is go and join this ship to the first fleet. So we've now got, if we press the number 1 key, we now have 5 ships. And this guy will still go off and do its refueling. Our ships are now all sitting around waiting for the next ship to arrive. And the more we do that, the stronger our fleet will get, and the more we're going to be able to protect our home system. So I think I might leave it here, guys. Like I will actually, yep, so we'll dismiss that one through there. If we scroll back out, the independent world that we had come across is in through this side, and this one is now inside a different coloured territory. Now that means that there's another faction that we're not aware of where this independent colony is inside their border. We may have independent colonies inside our border as well. Our border will extend out around here somewhere, ultimately by the time we can sort of go into space to check things out. How are we going over here? This is coming back in to join up with the rest of the fleet. You see this is now travelling really quite quickly. The skip drive that we have only travels at like 10,000. So playing as the humans, I think this is the best way to sort of make use of these early little ships. Just sort of keep them around. This guy's limping off just to go and grab the refueling from this particular mining station from the Caslon that's there. If we have a look at the shortages, we should then see that there's a bit in there of reserve. This is to fuel up the various freighters that are coming, and also for this ship in through here. So it reserves what it needs where the other freighters can't take it off the amount. This is what the target is for it to actually sort of maintain in through there as well. So it's just interesting the way things do work. There's even more ships now coming into for reserving. It can also be reserved for purchase, or for pickup. So there's a few different aspects about that one. So here we go. The amount of this resource that is reserved for construction or other use at this location. So there we are. Now, I think that I might leave it here, guys, for this little primer. We've certainly gone through a lot of the basics. We haven't gone through anything about wars or how to sort of handle diplomacy. I'll leave that for you guys to figure out, I guess. I will be doing, as I say, I'll be doing more Let's Play series where I go into in a lot of depth about these sorts of things. And it will also be, here we go. Now, this is something I wanted to, I'm glad this one came up actually, because I had spoken about this but hadn't actually mentioned it. I'm just pausing because there is a bit of a cool down through here. And so this one is showing me that it's saying we can get 62 Mebnar, 16 steel by putting a mining station at HP 450. Let's have a look at HP 450, which is, when it's got those sort of letters, it's ultimately going to be one of these sorts of areas. So if we go and click on that one, it's highlighting this one over through here. And see how HP 450 only has 8% steel? But this is telling us that if we build it here, we're going to get 16% steel production, 1% of Caprica, I'm guessing that is, and 62 Mebnar. So it's here, but there must be, there's that 1% of Caprica, there's 5 of the Mebnar. We've got 57 and another 57 of the Mebnar in through there, and 5. So by building there, we end up picking up a little bit extra around the outside edge. That's worth getting. So I'm going to say assign the mission for that particular mining station. But it doesn't know that it's going to have that until it really has sort of looked at a lot of the actual asteroids around there. So I think we will leave it there. I hope you found this enjoyable, and I hope you found it not entertaining. Well, I guess I hope it has been entertaining, but I hope it's been informative above all. And I hope it just allays any fears that you may have about playing the game. It is not as hard as it would appear. There is a lot in it, but you don't have to do it. There's a lot of things you don't like. All of that stuff that I know. Afterwards, I'm thinking, why on earth did I go through all of that information about the money and how it all works when you really don't have to know about it if you don't want to? You don't have to go to this screen. You can sort of just, as long as you don't start to make financial decisions which are going to bankrupt you, as long as you're looking up through here, you should be okay, and just go slow. The game really rewards slow gameplay. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Well, actually, I'll catch you probably for the tutorials or for a Let's Play, which I'll be recording very, very soon.